in the end, like, I think we need to bring reality to the conversation. Like, nobody's going to give you a little gold star for being a perfect Scrum team, right? So who cares? The real issue is what works for you. So if having a woman from the test team works best for you, great, do that. But you know what? That's not the case in all organizations. And I gotta think that's the reason sex is common at the end of the day. So, but call it like it is. It is. Sorry. So this is a challenge. So if nominating a person from the team works well for you and they're not fooling around with decisions, great. If getting them from the, if hiring a consultant works for you, great. If getting them from the business community works, great. And you know what? It's going to be different for different teams because everybody's different. So one size is not going to fit all. So you need to understand your range of options and like look for the leadership qualities, look for look for the person qualities, and that can come from anywhere.
Yeah, especially if it's your first Agile project or your 10th Agile project. If it's your 10th Agile project, then you may choose from the team. But if it's your first, then probably there's only one or two people that know what they're doing, and probably they should be leading the team.
I agree with your comment, because especially if you have already an organizational structure in place, it's not that easy that you can choose and you can fire. Because those people have their network and so on, and you don't really want to go into that politics.
No. Well, you can still find a new job for them without fitting them into the Scrum framework.
Yeah,
I think. So you can find new tasks, new jobs, new goals for management without making them Scrum Master or Product Owner or a team member. That management is still necessary for removing impediments. As a Scrum Master, you cannot solve all problems alone. You still need the support of the management. So you need to be on good terms with them and try not to remove them.
I would put them into product owner. I would put them, from my experience, they make quite well in the product owner team. But okay, I have 30 teams with 30 line managers which become Scrum Masters. 5 of them are good, 15 of them are so-so, and 5 of them completely suck. And after we introduce Scrum, this is very obvious.
Yes.
So now we just have to get rid of them.
I have a question regarding the relationship with the customer. In our case, the product owner is not one person, but a group to a customer, and they can make a decision, so we are satisfied with them. And almost everybody in the presentation mentioned the direct relationship between the developers and the customer, I mean product owner, is very important. How do you manage it? Everybody attend to the meeting and the customer to making a specification, or how do you make the specification? We have business analysts, we have developers, we have project manager. Everybody join to the meeting, the customer, or only business analyst join the meeting and they make a specification. How do you make the relationship more direct between the developers and the product owner?
Well, it depends. So the more roles you've got in between the developer and the actual stakeholders, you'll increase your risk. You'll increase your communication risk because you've got handoffs between people, and there's communication loss, information loss every time you've got people in between. But at the same time, though, you decrease your risk because the business analysts will have a better handle on the business. They'll often have better analysis skills than what the developers might have right now. So what you want to do, so what's happened in the traditional world is they've assumed that there's this assumption that developers don't have any communication skills whatsoever. Regardless of the fact that it's completely false, that's the assumption, which is why you justify the existence of business analysts. But if you treat developers like people and realize, you know what, this person can get analysis skills, so you pair, so if the analyst pairs the developers and works with the stakeholders to understand the requirements, the developers start picking up these interviewing skills, these modeling skills, these being able to listen to what's really going on type skills, which takes it takes time to learn, but they can in fact learn it. Because when you observe developers in the real world, at the end of the day, they go home, they have families, they go shopping, they buy food. Like if developers didn't have, if you take traditionalists on their word and assume that developers don't have communication skills, they would die. How would they order food, right? Let's walk through some of these assumptions, right? So obviously the assumptions are false. So yeah, sure, there's a few developers out there that are total pods and they'll never be able to talk to business folks. They are few and far between. Okay, so for the vast majority of us, we can pick up these skills if we want to. So we can start removing some of these specialized roles. But then once things start to scale, suddenly the need for these specialized roles like a business analyst start to make more sense. Because the bigger the project, the bigger the range of stakeholders you're going to get. You'll have project administrators, which they only do the flunky work of making sure timesheets are in and getting people's desks and getting machines and absolutely critical. But this is just really basic administration stuff. So that's a role that once the things get more complex, that's a role that's critical to your success. So these are the things that we need to start observing. So it's easy to beat up on specialists, but at the same time, depending on the situation, sometimes these specialists start to make more and more sense. So.
And if you have multiple Scrum teams, how do you build these teams? I mean, so let's say you will have. I mean, how do you ensure that the team will be homogeneous?
Yeah.
So you have a business analyst, you have testers, you have user experience designers, you have developers, you have database developers, and so on. So would you set up teams? Every team you have all of these skills, or you make specific teams for business analysts, a different team for user interface designers, or is there any best practice for that?
So this is where in the Lean Development Governance Framework, this is one of the practices is to align your team structure with your architecture. So what you want to do is do some initial architecture up front to identify the subsystems or subcomponents, whatever you want to call those things, that you're going to build. So then you put teams together to address those components. So this is something called managing to the seam. So you identify the overall architecture, you identify what you believe the components are going to be, and the interfaces to them, and that's it. You have no clue what's on the inside. That's the problem with those teams. So then what happens, each of those teams should be self-sufficient. So then the team lead, the head, the team leads or whatever you want to call that role will communicate their issues back and forth. This will reduce your overall overhead, but at the same time you've got to have some sort of a program mentality because now you've got these different subcomponents that they should be loosely coupled, but the reality is that they are still going to integrate with each other. So you've got all these integration issues, you've got data sharing issues. Architecture becomes more interesting. Project management and program management become a lot more interesting. You've got to get your act together on a release schedule because now you're going to have, we like to call it staged program delivery, and so we like to compare it to a train schedule. So you have these release dates that the sub-teams have to make. So it's like a train, right? If you get to the train station 5 minutes late and the train's pulled away, too bad, so sad, you have to get the next train. So what you want to do, now obviously you can't always get away with that because of dependencies, but you want to have it as loosely coupled as possible so that way if one team is in trouble, it doesn't bring down everybody else with it. So this is aligning your team structure with the architecture. Now you'll do this either on a subsystem basis or on a domain basis, right? So maybe you've got if you're a financial institution, maybe you'll have like the banking domain, the insurance domain, the stock brokerage domain, stuff like that. So maybe you'll organize the teams around domains. If you organize your team around job functions, so the business analyst team, the UI team, and so on, then the bureaucracy just skyrockets. The documentation skyrockets. You're going to have people doing double work. They're not going to be agreeing. They won't be in sync with each other. They're not going to agree. They're going to point fingers. There's going to be handoffs. They'll be irresponsible. So particularly if you've got a separate testing team. So if you've got developers who aren't testing, and architects who aren't testing, and data people who aren't testing, they to me are not professional.